What is going on, everybody? My name is Dakota and welcome back to Cologne. Today we're going to be looking at and reviewing Oak in Bourbon by Scent of Wood. This fragrance is really more of like a fougere wood kind of vibe to it. It has a whole lot of good freshness with a good strong woody background, and that's what we're rocking with today. That's going to be today's scent of the day. So I was getting ready for work and I was poking through the cabinet and I brought this fragrance up in a couple videos and then it dawned on me that I've never actually done a review on it. So I thought I'd go ahead and rock this today, do a review, and we're just gonna have a good time with it. So I'm gonna start us out the way we always like to start out, and that is gonna be showing off the atomizer. The atomizer on this is pressurized, but is kind of weak. Not a lot comes out, and what does come out is very linear. So the pressure side of this is very good. What actually tends to come out, not so much. But what you get when this thing first gets in the air is you get an awesome wood note. You get little hints of floral. It's almost got like a little bit of a soapiness to it, and it stays incredibly fresh for being a wood-based fragrance. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit there on the arm. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into the notes of this one real quick. This one on their website doesn't really have top, middle, and base. It just has notes in general. So the main thing you're gonna get out of this is gonna be oak, some pepper, lavender, star anise, geranium, gaiac wood, ginger, and vetiver. So like I said, they don't really have breakdowns of like what comes out first and then the dry downs. They just kind of have like a universal note breakdown. But pretty much the way they listed it is kind of what you get. So when you first spray this, you get a heavy dose of that oak, of that gaiac wood. You get a little bit of that lavender, and you get just a tiny touch of pepper. And that's kind of what I get on the opening. I really feel like the lavender is what kind of makes this a little bit of like a clean, soapy kind of vibe to it. But this is a dominating wood fragrance. So this is going to be one of those fragrances where, unless you're not a lover of deep, rich, wood-based fragrances that can almost be a little bit overwhelming with some of the way the wood can come across in this one probably isn't going to be one for you. But if you love those kind of fragrances, this is going to be right up your alley. The one fragrance that I've actually tended to compare this to just a little bit was actually going to be Dior Homme 2020. The way that you get kind of like a soapy wood that comes across the bottom that has a little bit of a floral background, to me definitely reminds me of that Dior. Now, the only difference between that one and this one is the wood notes in this, the oak, the gaiac, and everything is turned up to 100. But for the fragrance being called Oak and Bourbon, you would kind of expect that. The one thing that I was pleasantly, I guess, kind of surprised in is there's no booziness to this whatsoever. I don't really know how you can call this Oak and Bourbon. You might as well have called this Oak and Lavender, because that's really about all you get. Like I said, is lavender and wood. But what we're going to do now is we're going to touch on the price, performance, and the availability. Availability wise, your average retailer is not going to have this. You're going to have to stick online to this one, and I highly recommend going the discounters route. So the full price on this one, they only sell these in 75 mils that I was able to find, is about 240 bucks. And if I'm being 100% honest, this is not worth that. It is an amazing fragrance, but it's not worth that price. Going the discounters route, you can get this for about that 150 range. Even that, I feel like, is a hair steep, but we can touch on that more in a minute. As far as the performance goes on this, it is pretty solid. Longevity-wise, I get anywhere from that 7 to 8 hour range, so it does good there. Sillage-wise, has a very good sillage. This thing falls off the skin beautifully. Now, projection, that's where this one kind of falls forward a little bit. It does set close to the skin, but like I said, with that sillage is so good, just a little bit of movement really gets this thing floating around. So now we're going to talk deep dry down. So this fragrance may be one of the more linear fragrances I have in my entire collection. On my skin, I get literal no change whatsoever from the opening into the dry down. A little touch of that vetiver is there on the opening. A whole dominating chunk of those wood notes are there. It stays a little bit floral. It stays a little bit light, kind of has like an aromaticness to it. And that's pretty much all you get all the way into the deepest parts of the dry down. And even 2 hours in, when you come back and smell this, it's going to stay very woody. It's going to stay a little lavendery. It's going to keep some of that little like cleanliness, a little bit of like a fougere, soapy kind of vibe. When this gets on your skin from the opening all the way into the deepest parts of the dry down, that non-change can kind of make it simple. And sometimes keeping it simple is one of the best things you can do. But I will warn you on this one, because this fragrance does have pretty good performance, the only drawback to such a limited change or non-change is going to be the fragrance can get very boring. As much as I like the opening and I like the dry down, I do wish it changed just a little bit, because if you're someone who likes to wear your fragrances all day and you like to smell it 14, 15 hours a day, if you're that person, this fragrance can get incredibly boring very quickly because there is no change. But one thing that I'll double down on is if you absolutely love the wood-based fragrance, if you like a good, clean fougere, little touch of lavender, you're gonna absolutely love this. But now what we're gonna do is float into the rating on this fragrance. If I had to give this fragrance rating, I would give it an 8 out of 10. The few things I'm gonna dock it on is I don't mind that it stays linear, but I wish it had a little bit of a change. Only because after that 8-hour mark, if you get more than that, this fragrance can get incredibly boring. And the biggest thing that I'm actually gonna knock it for is actually gonna be the price of this. I feel like even at discounters, picking this up for 160, 170, or somewhere in there for a 75 mil, it's just a little bit too steep for what you get. Now, as far as the quality of this fragrance, it is very good. It smells incredibly natural. There's not a whole lot of syntheticness that goes into this. It's not very cloying. It's not one that's gonna give you a headache or anything like that. But I just feel like for a 75 mil, for the lack of change, for the incredibly direct forwardness of this, I wish it had a little bit else. The other thing I'm gonna knock it for just a little bit, I wish this had a rum note or a bourbon note or a brandy note. I wish there was a form of booze that went in this, because if you could take that oak and bourbon, like the name says, if you could put a rum twist on this, a boozy nature to this, this thing would absolutely slap. Because how clean this is, how woody this is, if you would twist that up just a little bit and give me some booze, I bet this thing would be killer. But as far as the presentation on the bottle goes, it's very good. I'll go ahead and get in here again. That's probably fighting on my ring light just a little. But yeah, it's got this cable that wraps all the way around it. It's got a nice little like necklace type thing to it. The cap is not a snap cap, but it's a pressure cap. It holds very well. As far as the presentation goes, it is very nice. I like that the bottle is a different style. I like how simple they keep it. The atomizer is okay. I wish that that extra pressure could push a little bit more out of there, but that kind of falls back to the price ratio that I was going over. As nice as this fragrance is, it's gonna be hard pressed to pay the asking price for this. But I do think that's gonna get us wrapped up on this one. If you're interested in this fragrance, on every single video, I always leave a link to the fragrance in the description. So if you wanna check this one out, go ahead and click that link down there. But yeah, that's gonna get us wrapped up. As always, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for subscribing, for sticking around, staying tuned, listen to me yap about how stuff smells. I truly appreciate it. But that's gonna be all for today. As always, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.